Hey everybody, I'm Bill over at Whole Life Soaps, and welcome to the very first episode of my podcast. It's called Can You Soap With It? And since that wasn't clear, first time out, technical difficulties. Can you soap with it? I'm Bill. I'm the headless wonder in the picture there. So let's keep going. Of what can you actually put in soap? And I get suggestions from people all the time, and I had two suggestions this last month, probably because it was the holidays, but they said, can you soap with peanut butter, and can you soap with Nutella? I happen to have both here. Although honestly, this is not peanut butter, this is almond butter, because if it does work, and I do plan on selling it, I don't want to put something out that's going to give people allergies and make them sick. So I'm using a small jar of Nutella and a small jar of Barney's almond butter, and we're going to make ourselves like a Reese's peanut butter cup soap. So now, before you start any of this stuff, I'd like to point out I did preheat these things in a microwave so that they'd be more liquid than solid. There's things you want to do to make it easier to soap with, but since we're trying to answer the question, can you soap with it? We're going to go for it. So I'll shut the hell up. What I got here, I've got my oils separated into two pots. Dementia sits in. Okay. I've got my lye separated out into two separate batches. I've got 8 ounces of Nutella, 8 ounces of almond butter. I have my mold over here, which will hold 15 pounds of soap, which is what this will make. I have sodium lactate because I'm putting all of these greasy solids into my soap. Sodium lactate is a salt that will, when you add it to the lye water, and I've already done that, you will harden your soap. This sodium lactate, you add a tablespoon per every 3 pounds of soap. So I add about 4 tablespoons to my batch. I don't like to go overboard with it. I would like to point out, I always make my soap in big batches. I do anywhere from 15 pounds to 50 pounds at a shot. I run a business, so I always have to think about what's the most cost-effective way for me. I'm using 104 ounces of coconut oil. I'm using 48 ounces of olive oil. I'm using 4 ounces of shea butter. I'm using 4 ounces of castor oil in this recipe. I'm using 710 grams of lye. It's super fatted at 5%. I'm not using a full water. I'm using 38%. And then I'm using 60.08 ounces of water. That's the recipe. It's pretty simple. It's my standard recipe. Please don't steal it. Thank you very much. Boy, that's too hard. But anyway, I'm not going to add any scent to this. This is just going to be a natural bar of soap in just about every respect. Our oils are made up of coconut oil, shea butter, castor oil, and olive oil. That's all I use. That's my standard base mixture. And if you're interested in the recipe, I will put it in the show notes afterwards, okay? I am going to, at this time though, I'm going to take just a cup of oil from each one of these so I can mix them up a little bit better when the time comes. Just because I preheated them in the microwave doesn't mean they melted fully. I heated them up for 3 minutes. That's about as hot as you can go without burning them. So what the oil will do is allow you to turn them into a true liquid. So it makes it easier for the mixing later on. And I'm taking one from each batch so that it stays consistent. And I'll set that over here and grab a spatula. Sometimes you're just not prepared. Let's speed it up. There we go. Now I'm back. Now I'm back. Okay, so what we're going to do to start with is we're going to mix up our first batch of soap. And so you're just going to add your lye mixture to your oils. You're going to set that aside someplace so that it's not in your way. Then you're going to have your blender ready to go. I like to use a stick blender. And then we're going to go. So, bear with me. All right, we don't need to watch me do all that. So, hey, please notice I'm wearing gloves. This stuff is caustic. It'll burn your skin. You don't want to do that. But we're going to just speed through the process. I am not going to bring this to trace. I'm going to bring this to what, it's kind of like an applesauce consistency, just a little bit before trace. And then I'm going to set it aside, and because I've got this other batch I have to work on, when it's set aside, it will actually come to what they call trace, which is when you can take just the very tippy top of your blender stick, and you can just kind of touch the surface, and it will leave a mark without going away. You drop a pebble in the water, the water ripples and it turns back to water. But when soap is at trace, you drop a pebble in and the hole stays, or the mark stays. So that's what we want to go for. But if I get to trace now, it'd be too thick to work with in a few minutes. So let's continue. Starting to all kind of come together. Well, I hope you can see that. Camera's over there, but we don't want to listen to me blend. Okay, so I'm going to add that. Looks like that is the Nutella, I think. Nutella mixture is sitting in the oil. I'm going to add this oil to it as best I can so that it will not be stuck to the sides, will release easily. See how liquidy it gets after being microwaved and a cup of oil added to it? Works pretty good. You see it's going to start to turn into, looks like almost like a chocolate milk, but it's chocolate oil. Or I should say it's a hazelnut chocolate spread oil, but whatever. And I'm just going to add that into my soap mixture. And I'm going to get all the good parts out. Because now we're going to have Nutella soap in this particular jar. I am going to mix this up a little bit more before I set it aside because I don't want it to just sit in there. You've got to try to incorporate all of it. And Nutella is extremely fatty, so chances are there'll be some stuck to the bottom when we're done. So, in this particular pot, set these out of the way. And here we go. Ooh, a little more mixing. Good times. Good times. And that's done with that one. Yet, because I have a second batch of soap that I need to prepare, and I don't want solid soap yet. I want to be able to kind of do some things, some weaving of the soaps together, so to speak. So let me just mix this batch up so it gets to what we call that pre-trace stage. And it's just going to be the same exact process as before. So I'm adding in my lye, putting my stuff aside, blending it up, getting to that pre-trace stage. I'm going to take my lovely almond butter here. I'm going to mix it together, see how milky it gets, add it in. Look at that. I work at the speed of light. I am the Flash. Give me a team spot on the Avengers. Anyway, here we go. They should be about done. Okay, when I set this aside, both the Nutella and the hazelnut version will set up on their own a little bit, but we're going to work with this one, the Nutella, first because it's closer to being ready at this point. Let me bring it to the camera. Okay, so we'll look at the Nutella version first. I'm just going to angle this shot down. Hopefully my camera does not fall, because that would suck. Okay, so that's our Nutella mix. Okay, and let me show you the other. Excuse my mess. I usually have clean paper down, guys. Over. Speed this up a little. There is the almond butter version. This is what the almond butter one looks like. Okay, so anyway, let me bring this camera back up so that we can focus on finishing this product. Okay, let's do it. So let's get back around to the front there and see what I'm saying. Phases of saponification. Regardless of whether or not it's good soap, you don't want your skin to fall off, okay? So, I think I was talking about don't touch the mixture because it's still caustic, so that's why you wear the gloves. So I was just re-emphasizing that safety point. I'm going to start with the almond butter. Actually, I'm going to start with the Nutella layer because it's been sitting just a tad bit longer. I don't want it to turn to soap too much. It is at light trace already. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to pour a little of this. Well, actually, I guess I should bring it over here. my large mold.
Look at that stuff. It's like chocolate. It's awesome. Who doesn't love
the
soap?
whole thing in. Yeah, I'm just gonna put some of it in.
It's pretty amazing.
Then check this.
Now, this is why my friends call me the Harry Potter of soap, because I make things look really cool. So just check this out. It's going to be sweet.
It's sitting. It's now in a light trace. If you don't know what trace is when the soap will just sit on top of itself. Like I could put the blender top onto it and make a ring and it'll stay. It won't disappear.
Yeah, I explained that already. Move on. Come on. Now look at how those splashes go here. And I want you to notice the patterns, because those patterns are good to swirl around and make designs with. I love doing this is called a churn pour. I love doing this kind of thing. So because I make my soaps in big batches, this is the easiest way to make interesting colors and patterns. When you have smaller molds, you can do cooler stuff. Or if you want to work in layers, there's also cool things you can do, you know, soap sculpting, that sort of stuff. But that's a whole other episode. Whatever. Anyway, here we go.
Like so. As you can see, it's starting to make kind of a cool design.
It's like you read my mind.
Grab my handy dandy skewer
Look at that.
and start to intermix some of these things together, because they will make.
I know it's hard to see from the angle, but I'll get you a close-up in a second. But it does work pretty cool.
They will make a cool pattern in the finished soap. You know, as we go on, I can always do a demonstration on how to make your soap look cool.
I like that word, cool. It's my go-to. Cool.
Layman's terms, look cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Let's add the rest of this.
I got you. We're right there. You might have noticed a little chunk in the pot. You don't want the chunks in your soap. They'll collect lye. They'll turn into a pocket of grease. They'll go rancid. They'll be nasty. So do a better job of mixing than I did. It's the first time I've ever worked with these materials, so you know, you live and learn. Let's speed it up. Here we go. It's getting it all in there. And now we're going to add a little bit more of the other. Sweet. Scrape it all out. Get the good stuff in. Don't want to waste anything. And now we're going to add the design. We're going to do what's called the figure 8. So check it out.
Learning how to make soap. One of the most basic things you can do is a figure 8 with a stick. When you go across the entire width of your soap, you can do it a couple of times. And what it does is it creates this feather-looking tail over the top. And then you take your stick and run it the other way, and it creates a really cool pattern over the whole thing. I like to shake it down, make sure it stays even. And then I need to get my dividers in here.
Wow, they're so clean.
Suppose if I was feeling extra special, I could do that to every individual bar. But you know, I don't see the point in doing that. Okay, so these are going to have to set up for 24 hours before we can see what the final product looks like. But this is what it looks like here in this soap. Let me make sure that camera can get a shot of that.
Camera's coming. Oh, look at that. Oh, amazing. Here we go. Check it out.
And that is your almond butter and Nutella soap. I imagine, I mean, I'm not a cosmetist specialist or anything, but I imagine that the almond butter, because it's got pieces of almond, will have a nice exfoliating quality. And I imagine that just the extra fats from the two butters themselves will also add a nice moisturizing quality to this particular soap. Although I imagine it could also lead to rancidity, so we'll just have to see how it goes. But when these are done and they're all out and hard and good, I'll take pictures and post them. Thanks for watching. I'm Bill McConnell. I'm the owner of Whole Life Soaps in Wrightwood, California. If you like what you've seen, consider sponsoring us through our Patreon link and buy some soap at wholelifesoaps.com. Peace out, yo.
Okay, and just before we call it a day, ladies and gentlemen, one thing that I did not do here at the very end that I normally do when you see this, I spray it with 91% isopropyl alcohol, and that prevents soda ash from getting onto the top. Soda ash is this nasty buildup of white. It's a natural part of the soap process, but it's brittle and crumbly, and it leaves an undesirable quality on your soap. I usually, if it shows up, I have to shave it off because I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. So before you put the lid on your soap, or before you insulate it or do what you're going to do, just spritz it. Spritz each bar pretty good, and then and it'll prevent that soda ash from coming. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what these look like. Remember, as I said in the video, I'm Bill McConnell. I'm the Harry Potter of soap up in Wrightwood, California. We make Southern California's best soap. WholeLifeSoaps.com. Go buy some today.